Hey everybody, David the AI Guide here. Welcome to another week on the AI Guide where we're making AI human. What does that mean? That means we are focusing on the human impact of this transformational technology and all of the associated other exponential technologies that are going to change all of our lives in the very near future. And we'll hear more about that in 1 second. But before we do, click those links below. 2 links. The first is my book on Amazon, The Beginner's Guide to AI, History of AI, and Current Impact on 10 different industries. It's a fast read, only a couple hours for the whole book, but gives you a lot of information in a short time. And the second link is free resources. Learn much more about AI than we can teach you in these short videos. Click those links, everything in the resource is free, and you're going to learn much more about AI than what we're doing in these short videos. So thanks so much for tuning in, and let's jump right into part 2 of hearing from the man, Andrewng, about what's coming in AI. So we did part 1 last week, and andrewng is focusing on changing from concentration on bits, meaning actual computing process, to things. And he started a new company called landingai, and their focus is on manufacturing. And we've talked a fair bit about AI and manufacturing on this channel. Why? Because that's how everything that we use in the real world gets made, is at some manufacturing plant somewhere around the globe. What Andrewng had noticed was manufacturing companies were having a lot of trouble adopting AI. And we're going to hear some of those reasons right now. But his approach now is what he calls data-centric AI. This article, in this interview, he says, if data-centric AI is a great direction, how does it work in the real world? Expecting organizations to train their own custom AI models is not realistic. So the vast majority of companies we're talking about are what they call SMBs, small and mid-sized businesses. They have no capability to do what Andrewng just said. They don't even have the capability to create a model. They have to buy a model and hope it works, sort of the way they may have bought some forecasting models that were Excel-based in the past. So Ng and landingai do that through a platform that they call landingai, enabling what they call domain experts to express their knowledge with data labeling. So there's 2 sources of data, right? One is non-human examples, or, for example, if you're training an AI to recognize a cat, you give it 1 billion cat pictures, right? And this article goes on to say that's simply not possible in manufacturing because they don't have hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or millions of examples of something. Maybe they have 50. And he says, in a manufacturing environment, any decent manufacturing line does not generate a high frequency of quality defects. So if you're implementing AI to manage your quality defect process, well, you're not going to be able to give it a huge number of examples. So what their landingai system is doing is allowing them to pull the 50 examples and then people to basically annotate their human knowledge into the system, not through external examples like pictures or text or whatever, but actually creating knowledge, probably text, and annotating that text in a way the AI can understand. So Ng says this process described is clearly a departure from what had become, let's throw more data at the problem. And Ng goes on to say that He was one of the early and big proponents, obviously, of both deep learning and big data, but that has limits in many applications, and manufacturing is one of them. There's a guy named David Talbot who was former head of machine translation at Google. So he's pretty senior in AI. And what he's been saying is applying domain knowledge, meaning human expert knowledge, in addition to learning from data makes lots of sense for machine translation. We have now reached the point where we have so-called foundation models for certain applications like NLP, natural language processing. The perfect example is GPT-3 or ChatGPT, both humongous models trained on virtually all of the data available online on the internet. But that clearly does not work in many company environments for the specific purposes they want to use AI for. He goes on to say, these foundation models weren't one day not a foundation model and later they were. They were developed over many years and got bigger and bigger as models with more and more and more data. So this new data-centric AI effort is aimed at making AI work in environments where the model cannot be created at the company and the data is limited, so they need to introduce human experience into the AI. And then andrewng goes on to predict the next 10 years in AI. As a computer vision insider, Ng is very much aware of the steady progress being made in AI. He believes at some point the press and public will declare a computer vision model to be a foundation model. So the only foundation models so far are natural language processing and text to image, or image to text. Could be either way. But now they're saying sooner or later there will be a foundation model developed in computer vision. According to Ng, people tend to have a learning algorithm view of a huge amount of data, which is why machine translation eventually demonstrated that end-to-end purity of learning approaches could work quite well, but that applies only to problems with huge volumes of data. So when you have small data sets, domain knowledge becomes very important. That means human expertise. So you have to rely heavily on human knowledge in manufacturing, and that's why Ng's company is working directly with manufacturers to create models that work. He goes on to say there's approaches similar to this called robust AI, hybrid AI, and neurosymbolic AI, and technologies such as knowledge graphs to express domain knowledge. So a knowledge graph is basically charting your results over time, right? Ng also finds so-called multimodal AI, or combining different forms of inputs, such as text and images, to be promising. He goes on to say, however, that his platform is not using these because they aren't well developed yet. And Ng finally talks about how he was one of the first to utilize GPUs for machine learning, but he's focusing less on hardware and more on building a model with limited data that works for companies. He finally says, much of the focus on AI throughout the last decade has been on big data. 10 years ago, I underestimated the amount of work that would be needed to flesh out deep learning. And I think a lot of people today are underestimating the amount of work, innovation, creativity, and tools that will be needed to flesh out data-centric AI, meaning broad adoption of AI across many different sizes of companies, not just the biggest one. So this is cool, hearing from the guy himself. He says AI is moving away from hardware, it's moving away from big data into basically customize solutions for particular applications in environments with limited data, and that's really the next evolution of AI in his view. So good stuff. Thanks for tuning in. Andrewng obviously is one of the key people in the history of AI. So it was nice to learn from him. We'll see you next time. Click the links below, subscribe, share, like, help us grow and bring better and better content to you. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.